Under the bizarre light of a red moon on the Shanwu continent, the dark sect rises in the shadows. Trapped in the room and desperate, our protagonist begs his senior sister to leave him alone. To make matters worse, the redhead shamelessly denies his request and aggressively approaches him. With a malicious smile on her face, she warns the boy that today is their big wedding day. Full of charm, the woman questions if he would have the courage to leave her alone in that empty room. Trapped and with no way out, our boy named Zhao Mu reflects on how he reincarnated into this crazy world. Completely obsessed, the woman suggests changing clothes to fulfill her wild demands, while he concludes she is definitely not his wife. A year ago, the kid reincarnated as a successful noble and even managed a marriage contract with a princess. But right at the peak of his life, he ended up being kidnapped by a gang of villains and thrown straight into the sect. At that moment, becoming a prisoner seemed like rock bottom, but the real nightmare was yet to come. By sheer bad luck, his body had the pure yang constitution, perfect for feeding that crazy woman's yin mystic art. Since no one cares about a servant's life, he became just a cultivation tool and was mercilessly drained of his power. Restless and thirsty for more energy, the woman whispers, asking why her husband hasn't gotten into the training spirit yet. With his body weak from coughing up blood, the protagonist realizes he has reached death's door. Refusing to kick the bucket now, he tries to struggle while the redhead keeps grabbing his face. Full of herself, the cruel woman says the boy should feel honored to be defeated by her hands. Right after that, she pulls out a green solidification pill to force the process. To justify the aggression, she explains her art is almost at max level and tells the protagonist not to be stingy with his energy. Forced to swallow the pill forcefully, the kid chokes badly. In total despair, he screams with all his might for her not to do this and to release him immediately. The cunning girl tells him to give his best while the poor guy panics, thinking he'll be drained to the last drop. With clenched teeth and bleeding fists, he swears he will never give up and accept this end. Suddenly, a holographic panel glows, revealing that his strong will to survive activated the return system. Surprised, he hears the robotic voice explain that whatever he gives to others will return multiplied up to 10,000 times. With a smirk, the boy celebrates the chance to turn the tables, and the system already guarantees the max multiplier as compensation for the delay. To provoke him even more, the redhead jokes that his mouth says no, but his energy is very honest. Driven by anger and with fire in his eyes, the protagonist decides to throw his pride away and warns he will satisfy her demands right now. Totally shocked by the boy's bold attitude, the woman lets out a gasp of surprise. Melted by his confidence, she asks her husband not to hold back at all in this training session. Taking advantage of the golden chance the heavens sent, our little protagonist goes on the attack without mercy. Determined to take the reins of his own life, he swears to take control of his destiny from now on. Completely surrendered, the redhead whispers that tonight, the place belongs only to him. As soon as the sun hits the mountains, a new day begins in the sect's facilities. The next day, the kid wakes up realizing his body is shredded and overflowing with energy. Without making a fuss, the woman gets up and stretches, looking very satisfied. While putting on her clothes, she makes sure to praise the protagonist's performance even though he had little strength. About to leave, she warns that if he survives the strong pills, she will return to train more. Suddenly, the system goes crazy, warning that the drained energy activated the 10,000-fold return and grants the red yang sacred Bodhi, leveling up his stats non-stop. In a matter of seconds, he destroys the cultivation barriers and reaches the 10th level of QI refinement, achieving the perfect circle. Covered in golden flames, our boy flexes his muscles, impressed with the absurd power of his new form. After taking a deep breath and putting out the fire, he realizes it's not time to show off around here yet. Aware that the dark sect is full of overpowered masters, he understands that becoming a target now would be pure suicide. Quick on the draw, the kid puts on his cloak and focuses on accumulating more strength while no one is paying attention to him. During a walk through the courtyard, he considers using his new physique to team up with the senior girls and farm spirit stones. But shaking his head, he discards the idea, remembering he now has a broken system and doesn't need to beg for spare change. Looking for alternatives, the protagonist thinks about how to get quick money to keep evolving. Right ahead, he spots the outer disciple Wang Chan casually meditating in his corner. Remembering the help he received from this guy in the past, the boy decides it's the perfect time to return the favor. With a plan in mind, he decides to give the 200 stones he saved, hoping the system multiplies the jackpot. Shocked by the little bag that appeared out of nowhere, the disciple opens his hand and sees the payment. Completely deluded, Wang Chan thinks his effort moved some sect bigwig to give him this allowance. Without wasting time, the screen beeps in the protagonist's vision, confirming the donation and activating a 500-fold return. Bathed in a celestial light, He scores 100,000 stones at once and laughs to himself about how easy it is to get rich. With a greedy smile, he calculates that if he gets the max multiplier, he will pull 2 million and get revenge on everyone who humiliated him. Thanks to a tricky idea, he thinks about donating the system's own reward again to farm infinitely. Under a heavy rain of spirit stones, poor Wang Chan goes into shock, not understanding anything. Kneeling on the ground, the disciple thanks the heavens for the financial miracle and swears loyalty to the mysterious benefactor. Full of gratitude, he bows to the wall, promising to train twice as hard while the protagonist just watches hidden. Frustrated with the gray screen, the boy concludes the trick didn't work and the system doesn't accept giving away its own generated reward. Suddenly, a female voice echoes in the courtyard, calling for our little protagonist and making him turn his back. Surprised he is still breathing, an imposing beauty in white appears, wielding her sword. Upon recognizing the girl, he remembers her name is Luki and that she also cultivates the same energy, draining mystic art. In the past, this girl even took good care of the kid but vanished after receiving threats from the crazy redhead. With her eyes on the boy, the girl comments his constitution is much stronger than she imagined. Straight to the point, she cuts the small talk and grabs the protagonist's hand with brutality, leaving him totally confused. With the redhead out of the picture due to cultivation isolation, Luki warns that now it's his turn to help with her training. Giving no choice, the swordswoman summons her flying weapon and tells the boy to get on quickly. During the high-speed flight, the protagonist grabs the senior's waist, begging her to go easy on the speed. Suspicious of the sudden change in the boy's aura, she questions if he got any gifts from that cunning woman, while he denies it, saying he was just exploited. With a glance over her shoulder, the brunette warns that villains aren't nice and soon he'd be drained to death if he stayed in the other's hands. Confident in her battle power, Luki promises to challenge her rival as soon as she levels up and take the boy as her definitive partner. Glued to the beauty's back, he pretends to accept the protection while she blushes, and the kid thinks indignantly that he is nobody's toy. After crossing the skies, the flying sword lands with style directly in the intersect's facilities. Already inside the room, the girl offers a vitality pill as a reward if he guarantees the advancement's success, and the protagonist agrees silently. Before starting the action, Luki tells the boy to sit in the corner, warning she will clean up to prepare. The protagonist lets out a muffled chuckle, showing he is not scared at all. Immersed in the bathtub, the senior mutters confidently that this time no one will stop her from getting what she wants. Suddenly, the kid appears right behind her, asking what he should do and giving the girl a huge scare. Startled by the invasion, she stammers asking why he entered out of nowhere, but soon receives the excuse that cleaning up together saves time. Without much ceremony, the two settle into the water, and the boy warns it's time to start the job. Amidst a whirlpool of energy in the bathtub, he praises the brunette's mystic art while she sighs, impressed by the young man's strength. Panting and blushing, the swordswoman tries to catch her breath, and the protagonist jokes, saying he didn't expect someone with this art to be so sensitive. Dying of embarrassment, she tells the boy to shut up and not say that out loud while he agrees, laughing at the situation. In a more serious tone, and with a lowered gaze, the girl reveals she is getting married next month. Surprised by the gossip, he hears the groom's name and immediately recognizes this Long Tiangxiang guy. Famous in the sect, this guy reached the nascent soul realm before he was 30, being considered a supreme genius that hasn't appeared in millennia. Besides mastering sword intent alone, the guy is a recognized powerhouse by everyone on the prodigy list. Always mocking, our little protagonist comments that if a big shot like that finds out he was betrayed, things will get very ugly. To calm the young man, the brunette explains the groom damaged his meridians in the past and became unable to cultivate properly, so no one will suspect anything. Approaching the boy, she confesses she would never share her most precious power if she didn't truly like him. Touched by the sudden declaration, the protagonist whispers the senior's name with a very charming look. In a quick movement, he pulls the girl close and doesn't waste time sealing the moment. Behind closed doors, the training gets intense, and he warns they need to work hard since she is almost leveling up. Bathed in a mysterious light, the girl absorbs the kid's energy during the intense synchronized training session. Suddenly, the holographic panel appears in the protagonist's face, warning that the drained energy activated an 800-fold return. Strengthened by the reward, the boy's sacred body glows intensely, and his strength takes a gigantic leap. With the system's warning congratulating him on advancing to the foundation stage, he celebrates that at this pace he won't need to fear any big shot. Struck by a brilliant idea, the kid snaps his fingers and decides to test a risky new strategy. Right after that, he pokes the sleeping senior, demanding his promised reward and leaving the poor girl quite groggy from sleep. Completely exhausted, she praises the young man's infinite energy and hands over the flask, asking only to sleep in peace. Opening the flask with a smile, he realizes he got 10 vitality pills and is impressed by such generosity. With a tricky plan in mind, he concludes he doesn't need to look far to donate the items if the perfect guinea pig is sleeping right next to him. Quickly, the boy pops a second-class pill into the girl's mouth, and the system confirms a 30-fold return with an upgraded item. Slightly disappointed with the low multiplier, he grumbles, thinking 30 times was too little for his level of ambition. Without getting discouraged, the kid remembers he still has 9 chances and bets that an unbelievable return will have to come out of this roulette. With no mercy, he forces another pill down the girl's throat, and the jackpot finally hits with a 3,000-fold return. Overcome by an intense fever due to extreme energy, the senior begins to cold sweat and pant endlessly. Victorious with the reward, the kid holds up a glowing marrow purification pill and gives an ear-to-ear smile. After analyzing the little green item in his hands, he knows he hit the jackpot because this pill is a high-level relic. Knowing his stuff, he reflects that this purification has the supreme power to improve any cultivator's natural aptitude. Despite having a rare constitution among mortals, the boy admits his current strength is nothing compared to the true pampered geniuses of the sect. Determined to fly higher and step on his enemies, he swallows the green pill without thinking twice to break his limits. Immediately, an explosion of power courses through his veins, making the boy's body tense up with the medicine's absurd strength. Pressured by the internal force, he quickly sits on the floor, crossing his legs to refine that energy before his body explodes. Surrounded by a circle of blazing flames, our hero enters deep meditation to absorb every drop of the pill's power. Early in the morning, the swordswoman covers her nose complaining about the horrible smell of dirty sweat from the boy and sends the poor guy to the shower immediately. Without arguing the order, the protagonist runs to the bathroom and quickly closes the door to clean off all that dirt. The woman widens her eyes upon noticing the young man reach the foundation stage and questions if the pill was really that strong. Suspicious of that smooth skin and pure energy, the senior confronts the kid, asking if he ate something else secretly. Caught by surprise by the question, the protagonist cold sweats, knowing he can't explain where he got such a rare pill out of nowhere. Playing dumb, he passes the credit for the evolution to the synchronized training and even provokes her, saying she failed to form her own core. In a tight hug, he whispers the blame was on her lack of effort and offers another round of help totally for free. Yielding to the kid's charms, she calls him crazy for risking his life while he replies that it's all to help her evolve soon. After another intense training session, the girl falls on the bed completely exhausted and breathless. Already with his clothes on, the boy says goodbye to the senior, telling her to focus on leveling up while he sneaks away. Out across the mountains, he leaps feeling an absurd lightness and is amazed by the speed of his new strength. Full of plans for the future, the protagonist dreams of getting a flying sword to dominate the skies and explore the world. Stepping into the busy outer sect market, he observes the stalls full of cultivators buying and selling everything. After closing a deal with a vendor, the kid forks over his spirit stones and finally buys the much-desired weapon. Fascinated with the new bluish blade forged from meteor iron, he notices the enchantments that absorb power to continuously increase damage. With the weapon in hand, the boy's capitalist mind already calculates the absurd profit he will make when he donates this item for the system to multiply. In the midst of wealthy thoughts, a deep voice echoes behind him calling for the pretty boy, and the kid turns to face him. Face to face with a giant horned brute, the protagonist immediately recognizes the bullying troublemaker named Nu Tai. Known in the area, this monster is an ox madly obsessed with the crazy redhead, and had already tried to beat up the kid several times in the past. Bathed in a furious red aura, the ox man demonstrates his brutal power, and the protagonist sees the perfect punching bag right there. Grabbed by the collar, the boy faces the horned guy who growls, asking if the rumors of a new encounter with the redhead were true. Always with a cynical smile on his face, the kid answers with pure mockery, asking what the problem is and driving the rival crazy with anger. Blinded by jealousy, the brute prepares a punch loaded with energy, sending the boy straight to defeat once and for all. Based on pure strength, he blocks the massive attack with just one hand, creating a gigantic shockwave throughout the market. With his hand locked on the giant's fist, the boy warns he prefers to stay standing, leaving the enemy in shock with his new strength. Unable to accept the humiliation, the ox man explodes his dark aura, swearing to show the true difference in power between them. In a storm of insane punches, the brute tries to crush the boy anyway but doesn't land a single blow. Free from the attacks, the protagonist mocks the rival's absurd slowness and gets a furious "shut up" in response. Impressed with his own unbreakable defense, The young man praises his sacred body before deciding it's time to return the favor. To end the joke, the kid delivers a sonic slap so fast that the big guy doesn't even see the movement coming. Thrown backwards violently, the brute takes the full blow to the face and coughs up blood, not understanding anything. Fallen on the ground completely defeated, the big guy is helped by his henchmen, whose jaws drop at the young man's sudden strength. In an attempt to act tough, one of the lackeys threatens the protagonist, but the boy just smiles, saying they just reminded him of a detail. Pointing his finger, he shows no mercy and summons his new flying sword, sending the blade to tear through the air straight at the thugs. Aware that defeat is approaching, flying at 1,000 miles per hour, the lackey freezes with terror and lets out a high-pitched scream of total despair. Tossing the newly bought sword to the henchman, the kid warns that it will serve as the medical fee for their recovery. Immediately the system beeps on the screen, confirming the weapon donation and activating an absurd 1,000-fold return. Disappointed with the reward, he analyzes the new 5th-class sword and grumbles that the level is still too low. Furious with the provocation, the brutes grind their teeth and prepare to slice the boy right there. Jumping at the target, the gang attempts a cowardly attack while the protagonist just gives a mocking smile. Out of patience for trash, he unleashes his crushing aura and calls the enemies reckless for seeking their own ruin. Slammed to the ground by the absurd pressure, the thugs break their weapons and scream in pain, not understanding where so much power came from. At this exact moment, a girl appears, cutting the tension and defending the boy by stating she saw the henchman's sneak attack. Majestic in her light dress, the beauty named Mu Juling steals the scene with her imposing presence in the middle of the street. With her hands on her hips, she scolds our little protagonist for being so careless in the middle of enemy territory. Right after, the girl warns that you can't show mercy to rivals and must nip evil in the bud right away. Trying to keep his posture, one of the fallen thugs curses the woman and threatens her using the name of their faction's boss. Irritated with the audacity, the brunette releases her true red energy and asks if they have a problem with her name. Pale with terror, the brutes finally recognize the senior's identity and realize they messed with the absolute wrong person in the sect. Running like cowards, the gang flees desperately while the girl clicks her tongue, disappointed with the lack of courage from that bunch. Turning her attention to the boy, the senior points her finger in his face, ready to continue her moral lecture. Up close, she blushes and reminds the young man she had already told him to shout her name to protect himself from trouble. With a pouting face, the beauty confesses that if he fell over something silly, there would be no one left to marry her in the future. Cold sweating, the kid gives an awkward smile, remembering that the little one has always kept an eye on him since he stepped into the sect. In the protagonist's capitalist mind, he is absolutely sure she doesn't want to drain his power but rather is just obsessed with his incomparable beauty. Recalling her history of fierce battles, he knows very well the girl is a relentless legend of the inner area. Pinching the senior's cheek affectionately, the boy finds it funny how people would never imagine this cute side of the warrior. Full of confidence, the kid guarantees he won't be defeated so easily, and she retorts saying her future husband must stay safe. Wasting no more time, the brunette grabs the young man's hand and pulls him away from the market's commotion. Surrounded by impressive magic, the two rise into the skies, flying rapidly over the city's rooftops. Shocked by the technique, the protagonist analyzes that crossing the air without a physical sword is a skill exclusive to core formation masters. Curious about his savior's real strength, he becomes thoughtful, trying to guess how far her true cultivation level goes. Landing smoothly on top of an isolated mountain, the couple arrives at a luxurious courtyard surrounded by nature and tranquility. Taking a deep breath, the boy feels the dense spiritual energy flooding his lungs and deduces they have reached the sacred land. Inviting the young man into the house, the host opens the door while he wonders in amazement if she is some elder's personal disciple. Curious about the absolute luxury of the place, the protagonist asks if she lives there all the time and receives the answer that it is just a refuge for resting. Thrilled with life, the beauty skips and throws herself on the soft bed, enjoying the comfort of her secret and personal corner. Acting very charming on the edge of the mattress, she calls the boy to come closer, showing off a look full of ulterior motives. Keeping a rock-solid posture, the kid warns her not to try anything funny because his self-control is extremely limited. Completely red with embarrassment, the host calls the protagonist a sneaky trickster for having impure thoughts in her house. Changing focus, she hands over an extremely rare manual for controlling magic blades to help with his training. Surprised by the accuracy, he asks how the young woman guessed this, and the brunette confesses she caught the exact moment he was negotiating weapons in the market. As if the book wasn't enough, she pulls out a 4th-class ice attribute flying sword and hands it as a gift to the astounded boy. explaining the reason for choosing the ice attribute. She jokes that the weapon will cool his yang fire and prevent him from thinking nonsense all day. Determined to solve the young man's life bureaucracy, she tells him to stay there cultivating peacefully for a few days while she works. Before leaving, the senior promises to use her influence in the administration to promote the boy and remove the servant mark from his name. Watching the girl's back as she walks away, the protagonist frowns, increasingly intrigued about the true origin of this mysterious woman. Stopped at the doorframe, the brunette gives a fatal smile and simply answers that she is the future wife he will marry very soon. Laughing at the infinite audacity, the boy admits to himself that the little one really knows how to flirt and leave him speechless. Focused on constant progress, he shakes his head to chase away the romance and decides that mastering the techniques is top priority right now. Surrounded by dozens of floating golden runes, the boy tries to master the sword art using all his mental strength. Panting and overcome by frustration, he falls to his knees, realizing he can't learn the technique and questioning the absurd difficulty of the texts. Coldly analyzing his own body, he discovers that the golden pill only leveled up his muscles, completely ignoring his intelligence and cognitive talents. Lying on the rug, the kid gets depressed, thinking his cultivation will be permanently stuck because of his limited brain. Suddenly, a peculiar little noise catches his attention, and he spots a small horned monster eating grass in the middle of the living room. With a realization that borders on genius, the boy deduces that if donating items activates the system, then teaching complex theories should also generate heavy rewards. Shooting a villainous look, he approaches the innocent little creature and proposes a very painful private lesson. Using a bright holographic screen, the fake teacher vomits the basic multiplication table into the creature's mind, and the system beeps with a 100-fold return. Feeling his brain expand brutally at that very moment, the protagonist celebrates the stupid success of his plan to farm pure genius. With a mind sparkling with wisdom, he summons the new ice blade and executes flawless control in the blink of an eye, showing off style. Dissatisfied with basic genius, he taps his chin and reflects that the evolution is still slow for the insane standards of a reincarnator. Staring intently at the poor furry monster, he prepares the psychological ground for the second round of intense classes. Exuding pure malice, the improvised master warns that the next subject will make the student's head explode with the wonders of geometry. After overwhelming the animal by teaching the laws of integral calculus, the system recognizes the wickedness and injects an absurd new multiplier into the boy's mind. Stopped by a huge red warning, he discovers in astonishment that his comprehension reached the absolute barrier stipulated for his body's current strength level. Walking imposingly through the sect's library corridors, the protagonist trusts blindly that reading any manual will be a piece of cake now. In a single destructive movement, he summons the Vajra Fist, crushing the courtyard's oxygen with a colossal golden force. Seconds later, he conjures chains of red lightning, testing the thunder art, and almost frying the poor little white beast as a bonus. Mastering magical circles of fire with just one hand, he also memorizes complex divination tactics without breaking a single sweat. Throwing the scrolls onto the shelves, the kid snubs the knowledge of others, complaining that yellow, rank skills are trash to him. Calculating his next commercial step, he plans to create manual copies of all techniques to gift bad allies and farm infinite money from the system. Pulled from his delusions of grandeur by the mascot, the boy looks down answering the animal's weak squeaks, bringing a silver bone straight from its mouth. The little creature tries its best to hand the prize to its terrifying teacher. Taking the drooly item between his fingers, the protagonist thanks it with irony, guaranteeing he will prepare a nice marrow soup later. Suddenly, the seemingly useless material glows in a blinding purple tone and reveals it contains a dark secret called the Chaos Art. Trembling in shock, the young man widens his eyes, amazed at the grotesque luck of extracting a high-tier spell from a random demonic dog. Awakening on its own due to the prize's rarity, the system ignores caution and forces the automatic learning directly into the boy's mind. Grabbing his own skull in pure despair, the protagonist feels his veins bulging ready to burst with the overwhelming complexity of the information. Unable to withstand the brutal pressure of the ancient technique, the kid falls forward coughing up energy while the mascot jumps in panic. Wiping the red energy from his mouth, he curses his bad luck, realizing that even with intelligence at the max level of the foundation stage, he remains unworthy of understanding this terrifying power. Staring at the mysterious bone, our protagonist suspects the technique might be Earth or even celestial level. Worried about the boy's condition, the little Juling opens the bedroom door and asks what happened. To cover it up, the kid blames her, saying the given technique was too difficult to cultivate. Promptly, the girl warns that cultivation cannot be rushed and invites him to eat the snacks she prepared. With a charming smile, the brunette offers the food to the young man's mouth, asking him to open wide. Eating gladly, the protagonist comes up with a plan, realizing her presence is the perfect opportunity. In a bold move, he hands the magic bone to the senior for her to test the compatibility of the new technique. Curious about the item's origin, she listens to the lie that a mystic beast gifted him with that complex treasure. Exactly as planned, the system beeps, granting a 60-fold return on the donated Earth-ranked technique. Through a blue panel, the divine reward reveals itself as the powerful high-grade pure yang shuaming art. Bathed in a celestial light, the boy receives the upgraded manual, feeling the power overflow. Faced with the system's offer for immediate activation, he delays the process so as not to raise suspicions on the spot. Thoughtful, the kid deduces the strengthening would take too long, and little Juling would soon figure out his move. Furious and panting, the girl yells that the dark art almost destroyed her meridians and took her future husband with her. Hiding his relief, he notes that his own body's rare constitution was the only thing that would prevent a fatal explosion if he had forced the training earlier. Imagining the brutal scene, our protagonist cold sweats, concluding that his meridians would have turned to dust without the system's direct adaptation. Snuggled on the young man's back, the senior tries to calm down after the huge scare from the mortal technique. Whispering in his ear, the girl warns that the kid's special constitution requires extremely rare and compatible arts. With a cunning look, he turns his face and jokes, asking what her real plan is for treating him so well. Full of charm and with food in hand, the brunette answers bluntly that she only wants his total surrender to her. Promising a future of luxury, she guarantees that if he becomes her training partner, no one in the sect will dare touch a hair on his head. Suddenly, a furious scream echoes through the skies, shattering the couple's romantic mood in an instant. Like a destructive lightning bolt, purple energy crushes the courtyard's roof, announcing the arrival of someone with colossal power. Pressured by the crushing aura, poor Juling steps back while the boy is forced to his knees against the ground. Locked by the invisible weight, our little protagonist grinds his teeth, shocked at the absolute monstrosity of that newcomer. Totally terrified, the senior recognizes the imposing figure and screams, calling the woman master. Emerging from the shadows, the mysterious woman stares at the two lovebirds with a look that freezes the soul. Majestic and floating in the air, the mentor shows off her generous curves and an intimidating divine presence. With pure mockery, the beauty in purple questions if she ended up ruining the disciples' romantic little game. Right after, the woman warns that Juling is the most valuable student and is destined to inherit the sect's highest position of saintess. Disgusted with the situation, the master gives the student a huge scolding for hiding a dirty servant to date instead of focusing on training. Connecting the dots, the boy discovers that the little one is actually the great saintess and understands the reason for so much arrogance and confidence. Kneeling on the ground and begging for forgiveness, the brunette tries to ease her extremely dangerous mentor's anger. Inflexible, the tall woman summons a magical floating sword and decides to give only one single chance of redemption for the apprentice. Sadistic to the extreme, the master orders Juling to eliminate the boy with her own hands to cut the ties, and then lock herself up for 30 years of cultivation. Banging her head on the ground, the girl refuses to hurt her beloved and takes all the blame for the misconduct alone. Desperate, the apprentice cries, warning that eliminating the young man would destroy her martial heart and stall her evolution forever. Frowning with pure anger, the master questions if that brat dares threaten her using her own future as blackmail. Mercilessly, the woman releases another dense shockwave, making the scenery tremble under insane pressure. Clinging to the rocky ground, our little protagonist tries to resist the gravitational force while rethinking his life choices. Suddenly, the master's expression of fury disappears, and she fixes her eyes on the golden aura emanating from the punished boy. In an act of blind desperation, Juling hugs the boy, trying to shield him with her own body against the teacher's attack. Narrowing her eyes, the tall woman suspects that it is not just a common pure yang constitution present there. Impressed with the revelation, she confirms the absurd secret that the boy has awakened the mythical red yang's sacred body. With a smirk, the master praises her saintess's sharp vision, admitting the servant really has a terrifying potential. Totally unfiltered, the woman jokes that if she had known about the sacred body, she would have secured the boy for herself before everyone else. Choking on the big shot's audacity, our protagonist coughs awkwardly while little Juling sighs with extreme relief. Changing the tone of the conversation, the master warns she will spare the boy's life today, only so as not to break her favorite disciple's heart. As a non-negotiable condition, she orders the girl to return to isolation and only seek the young man again when she reaches the nascent soul realm. Tearing the sky in a sparkling purple blur, the powerful woman leaves, letting the two finally be in peace in the outer area. Wiping the cold sweat from his forehead, the kid takes a deep breath, aware that his life was hanging by a thread in the hands of that cultivation monster. Driven by the humiliation of being crushed so easily, he clenches his fist and swears to himself he needs to get ridiculously strong as soon as possible. Back to the base's commotion, the servants' courtyard wakes up busy under the dim light of the early morning. Sneaking into his cramped little room, the protagonist isolates himself from the world to put his new plans into action. With a victorious smile on his face, he summons the night's prizes, showing off his new high-class earth technique and the magic blade. Without further interruptions, he sits on the rug cross-legged and vocally orders the system to start the immediate strengthening. Immediately, a bright interface dominates the boy's vision, while a flood of raw power floods his mind and muscles. Ecstatic with the process, he feels the energy circulate at a terrifying speed fueled by the perfect synergy of his skills. Suddenly, a red alert flashes on the panel, warning that the little room's natural energy isn't enough to sustain the advancement. Determined not to stop his progress because of poverty, the kid presses the button confirming the automatic spending of his own financial resources. Surrounded by mountains of sparkling crystals, the boy unleashes the entire reserve of spirit stones accumulated on the floor. Frying the stones as if they were paper, the kid instantly converts the material wealth into pure, blazing cultivation energy. Bathed in an absurd flaming aura, our hero sucks every luminous drop, feeling his meridians expand endlessly. With the dawn of a new day, the morning calm takes over the roofs of the sect's servant village. Perplexed by the gray dust on the floor, the protagonist cold sweats upon realizing he burned 70,000 stones in one go. Despite the hit to his wallet, he raises his arms celebrating the victory of breaking the barrier to the third level of foundation formation. Opening the room's door full of attitude, he already puts his capitalist brain to focus on a quick way to make money again. Right in the first corridor, he runs into 3 heavy-duty thugs, blocking the way and shouting his name. At the front of the mob, the muscular blonde bully named Hu Kuang steps forward to demand answers from the boy. Envious to the bone, the rival demands a shameless toll, accusing the kid of profiting heavily from the redhead senior. With his memory fresh, the protagonist remembers perfectly that this arrogant leader loves to oppress newbie servants and dominate the sector's women. Through a cynical smile, our hero turns the situation around, demanding to know how many stones the criminal himself had already collected in daily extortions. Feeling the sheer scale of the mockery, the blonde completely loses his patience and leaps like a bull with his fist loaded with energy to eliminate him. With enviable calmness, the boy mocks the enemy's pathetic slowness, dodging the furious attack without taking a single step back. Paying in the same coin, the protagonist lands a direct, crushing punch on the bully's face, sending his body flying far through the air. Desperate with the blow, the lackey runs to help his brother Kiang fallen on the ground. With a heavy cough, the big guy raises his head in total shock at the opponent's strength. Through a smile full of mockery, the protagonist asks if it isn't obvious he reached foundation formation. Furious with the provocation, the brutes shout for everyone to attack the boy at the same time. To prepare the cowardly attack, the gang surrounds the target while he tells everyone to come at once. Grabbing the first attacker's arm, the kid deflects the green strike with absurd ease. Shocked by the scene, the extras comment that facing so many enemies should be a certain defeat for someone newly advanced. After taking a deep breath and accumulating energy in his palms, the hero prepares to sweep the trash from the courtyard. In a red explosion, he fires a shockwave that throws the entire gang far away. Like a wild tiger leaping from the roof, a new striped enemy attacks by surprise from behind. Blinded by fury, the monster sends the boy straight to defeat with a destructive double blow. Without moving an inch, the protagonist gives a devilish smile and activates his flaming red aura. Faced with imminent danger, the tiger man despairs but realizes it's already too late. Pinned to the ground by a crushing force, the striped beast turns into a carpet under the hero's foot. Covered by brutal energy, the kid tells the enemy to shut up and accept defeat. In a celebratory mood, the extras thank the hero for avenging the oppression they suffered from those tiger demons. Sneakily activating the system, the boy throws a bag full of stones in the defeated brute's face. Full of theatrics, the protagonist announces aloud that he will return the stolen money to its original owners. Reacting to the act of kindness, the system beeps, activating a magical rain of stones falling from the sky. Kneeling on the ground, the crowd grabs the money desperately and cheers for the savior hero. With his eyes on the millionaire balance on the screen, the kid smiles victorious, ensuring he won't go hungry anytime soon. Meeting his friend Wang Chan in the courtyard, the protagonist hands over a special pill as a token of gratitude. Astonished by the gift, the young man refuses immediately, thinking the refining pill is too valuable. Without patience for stalling, the boy shoves the medicine down his colleague's throat in a quick, direct strike. Satisfied upon turning around, he scores a 100-fold return, receiving a second-class foundation pill. Choking on the pill, the friend warns that the big shot behind that gang he beat up is extremely dangerous. Tossing the new pill into the air, the hero agrees he needs to enter the outer sect soon and find a strong master. Upon arriving at the outer sect administration hall, the place overflows with a serious and bureaucratic aura. Right at the entrance, a giant cauldron spits fire while an older man practices medicine creation. Totally focused, Administrator Jiang Dinken brings his fingers together trying to master the blazing flame. Politely bringing his hands together, the boy introduces himself and interrupts the manager's work abruptly. Startled by the sudden voice, the man loses control and the furnace fire explodes violently. Accompanied by a high-pitched scream, the cauldron flips over, spewing flames and smoke everywhere. Amidst the dark mist, the administrator coughs non-stop and stands up furious at the mess. Pointing his finger in the newcomer's face, the old man curses the kid for ruining the refinement and kicks him out. During his careful observation, the protagonist mentally concludes the destroyed pill was trash, and the old man just wanted an excuse to pick a fight. Since the boy didn't move, the manager threatens to throw a giant rock at his head without mercy. To calm things down, the kid pulls out 50,000 spirit stones and offers them along with a warm cup of tea. In a quick attitude change, the old man smiles kindly and agrees to make the outer disciple badge right away. Straight to the point, the boy asks with a grim look who was the scoundrel that ordered his promotion to be blocked. Feigning ignorance, the administrator refuses to name the gossip, claiming professional ethics. Using the power of money again, the protagonist dumps several heavy bags of stones to loosen the old man's tongue. With a suspicious cough, the manager calls the young man closer with a hand gesture. Using a dusty finger, he writes the mysterious mastermind's name on the wooden table. With his eyes narrowed in anger, the kid discovers the cunning redhead Chu Jiaran is behind this boycott. Aware of the woman's massive influence, the hero realizes her spies are scattered in every corner of the sect. During his quick departure, the boy thanks him for the warning while the old man cleans the table, pretending nothing happened. Flying on his sword, the young man decides to seek temporary shelter at Senior Luki's house. Along the way, he analyzes he needs to lay low until the dust settles and avoid confronting the redhead for now. Near the mountain complex, the absurd speed of the flight leaves a glowing trail in the skies. Making a perfect landing in the girl's courtyard, he catches two men leaving her room and finds the scene highly suspicious. With arrogant postures, the two big shots are identified as the betrayed groom Long Tiangxiang and elder Lu Haikong. In the middle of the conversation, the old man suggests that now that she formed her core, the wedding can be officially scheduled. Respectfully, the pale groom promises to marry the old man's granddaughter as soon as he wins the annual hunting competition. Hiding behind the trees, the protagonist laughs at the situation, mocking the guaranteed betrayal of such a genius. With a loud knock on the front door, he announces his arrival, keeping the golden sword in hand. Surprised and blushing, the swordswoman in white runs to welcome the boy with an ear-to-ear smile. Pulling the girl close, he asks bluntly if the suited groom came to set the wedding date. Annoyed by the mention of the betrayed man's name, she tells him to change the subject and asks the real reason for the visit. On the bench next to the beauty, the hero reveals that it's the redhead's fault for closing all the doors of the outer area. Furious at the rival's persecution, the brunette clenches her fist and announces she has already broken into the core formation realm. Very close to his face, she whispers her thanks, stating the rapid advancement was only possible due to the young man's strength. Pushing him straight onto the bed, the swordswoman promises not to hold back her power this time and tells him to get ready. Totally giving in to her instincts, the woman changes her clothes, warning that she needs intense help to cultivate. Behind closed doors, the silhouettes of both show that the training night caused sparks to fly. Completely exhausted and thrown on the bed, the senior tries to catch her breath after absorbing the boy's energy. Checking the reward, the protagonist notices the system's multiplier returned a much smaller amount of power. Through the holographic screen, he discovers that harvesting from the same person multiple times drastically reduces the return rate. With his hand on his chin, the young man concludes playing with the same partner is no longer worth it for his infinite experience farming. In his bold plan, he imagines forming a team of various senior girls to maximize stat gains. Flashing a confident smile, he nods, agreeing the strategy of multiple partners is foolproof. Far from that idea for now, he sits down to cultivate, asserting that focusing on his own brute strength is the absolute truth. Surrounded by dozens of spirit stones, the boy breaks through to the 4th foundation level in the blink of an eye. With the last flask in hand, he is shocked to see the resources dried up even before reaching the 5th level. Wreathed in mystic flames, he sighs deeply, realizing sustaining the sacred body will cost an incalculable fortune. Awakened by a strange noise, the boy looks suspiciously toward the bedroom window. In a swift motion, the wooden frame swings open on its own with the force of the wind. Surprised and shirtless, our protagonist jumps up, calling the intruder by the title of Saintess. Imposing in her purple dress, the beauty corrects the young man, telling him to call her Zixuan. With a confident smile, the kid questions the reason for such a special visit in the middle of the night. Without beating around the bush, the woman warns she needs his pure yang energy to cultivate, leaving the boy completely confused. Immediately after, she pushes the hero forcefully onto the mattress. Trying to get out of the situation, the protagonist argues that harvesting techniques take time to show results, attempting to dodge the responsibility. Furious at the refusal, the woman unleashes a terrifying purple aura, calling the young man a cheeky brat. Pinned against the bed, the boy feels the crushing spiritual force locking his bones. Cutting the small talk, the Saintess demands to know immediately if he is willing to cooperate or not. Faced with a mortal threat, our little protagonist gives a nervous smile and swears he accepts the job with the utmost pleasure. Sly as always, he already asks what the master's favorite training methods are to cooperate properly. Annoyed by his boldness, she tells the young man to shut up and summons a magic portal right in the middle of the room. Sucked into the purple rift, the couple disappears in the blink of an eye. Crossing the portal, the two land in the famous purple sky cave dwelling. Walking ahead, the woman orders the boy to keep up with her steps and not fall behind. Calmly, she explains that this is her isolated cultivation spot, and absolutely no one will disturb them there. Immediately, the kid starts to get ready, warning he is ready for the harvesting session. Red with anger, the beauty tells him to stop fooling around, saying she has her own methods for this. Misinterpreting everything, the hero laughs, thinking the tall woman likes to take control of the situation. Suddenly, invisible magic gags the young man's mouth, forcing him to keep quiet. Turning her back, the Saintess tells the prisoner to close his eyes and help with the cultivation without making a peep. With a deadly glare, she warns that if he disobeys, he will end up severely punished right there. Without prior notice, the boy is hurled into a crystal-clear lake. Pointing her finger, the woman orders him to scrub his body very well and remove all dirt. Soaking in the water, the kid doubts his own luck, thinking he hit the jackpot, but quickly gets a yell telling him to shut up. Using only her mind, the mentor lifts the young man into the air, surrounded by pure purple magic. Tossed without ceremony, the hero falls back onto her soft sheets. Totally relaxed, he smiles, accepting his fate and joking he can't resist such a powerful woman. Suddenly, a different touch catches the attention of our little protagonist lying in bed. Flanked by two cat-eared maids, he hears the Saintess ask mockingly if the girls aren't pretty enough. Pinned down by the girls, the kid instantly realizes they are magical puppets created solely to drain his energy. Outraged by the substitution, his pride takes a hit upon noticing the master didn't want to get her hands dirty personally. While the servants do the heavy lifting, the boy observes the situation with a furious look. Determined to turn the tables, the hero declares he will show his true power right now. Inverting positions with brute force, he overwhelms the fake maids in an instant and takes control of the training. Sitting on her throne, the Saintess waits impatiently, grumbling about that bastard's delay. After finishing the job, the protagonist relaxes in a bathtub, while the maids pass out from exhaustion on the table. Trembling on their legs, the cat girls walk with difficulty, cursing the boy as a monster. Kneeling before the master, the servants beg forgiveness for the delay and blame the boy's overpowered body for their defeat. Understandingly, the purple beauty confesses she watched everything from afar and knows it wasn't her helper's fault. Next, she tells the maids to leave the flask with the essence right there and go rest. Obedient, the two agree and vanish from the hall rapidly. Already dressed, the boy walks toward the tall woman, ready to collect his part of the deal. Exuding confidence, the protagonist asks if his performance wasn't incredible and receives a dry comment that it was only acceptable. As payment for the service, the Saintess tosses a heavy bag directly into the boy's hands. Thrilled with life, he peeks at the prize and rejoices seeing 10 million stones and 4 rare evolution flasks. Putting his cloak back on, he thanks her for the gifts, praising the boss's absurd generosity. Observing the kid standing there, the woman crosses her arms and asks what he's still waiting for. Employing all his charm, the hero suggests that direct training between the two would yield much better results. Dying of embarrassment from the flirtation, the beauty kicks the young man out instantly with a teleportation spell. Consumed by a blinding light, the boy is sucked through space and disappears from the cave. Landing stylishly, the hero falls sitting exactly in the middle of his own room. Analyzing the scenery, he is surprised to see he returned to Luki's house, proving the insane power of that Saintess. Right before his eyes, the system screen glows, notifying that the colossal amount of donated energy leveled up his sacred body even further. Focused on progress, the kid crosses his legs and begins to cultivate, releasing a powerful black mist. With a clenched fist, He concludes his theory was right and changing training partners yields astronomical bonuses in the system. Full of plans, the young man smiles, knowing that as long as the big boss needs his strength, he will be untouchable in the sect. Back at the refuge, the saintess stares at the bowl full of golden essence, wiping that the item won't disappoint her expectations. Haunted by the images of the kid kissing the maids, the tall woman swallows dry, trying to chase away impure thoughts. Bathed in a pink aura, she shakes her head, telling herself not to get distracted by a mere errand boy. Hiding behind the tree, the two servants watch the boss lose her focus, wondering if the protagonist's liquid has side effects. On the morning of the next day, the sun illuminates the peaceful courtyard of the female residence. Stretching pleasantly on the bedroom floor, Luki wakes up in a good mood, wearing light clothes. Turning her face, the swordswoman is surprised to catch the boy already awake and cultivating intensely under a divine light. Impressed, she praises the young man's dedication so early while he smiles, saying he just felt a sudden inspiration. Excited about the hero's advancement, the senior proposes that they tackle the Ascension Road Challenge together to test their new limits.